a new program called Coast to Coast with Anna, Rebecca, and Jeannie. Here at the California Surf Museum. And we're going to get a chance to see what they have showcased here today.
Since 1942, when the military base was opened at Camp Pendleton, we've had an ungodly amount of military, which is some of our best customers.
Welcome to our very first show, Coast to Coast, Heart to Heart with Anna, Rebecca, and Jeannie. I'm your co-host, and here is my lovely co-host.
Yes, hello, and welcome to our new show, Coast to Coast, Heart to Heart.
I'd like to tell you a little bit more about my lovely co-host, Jeannie. She is a wonderful woman, an author, songwriter, educator, and a producer of videos and music for family entertainment, an organizer of special events, and she also has filmed and hosted special events for the military here in San Diego County. She brings a wealth of experience to our show.
And I would like to introduce you to my lovely co-host, Anna Rebecca. She is not only beautiful, but she has a beautiful heart and a singing voice, and she's going to be singing on our program today. We will get an opportunity to hear her sing beautiful songs, and Anna Rebecca also is highly educated with 2 master's degrees. She has 1 master's degree in theology and the other master's degree in marriage and family counseling. She's a public speaker and supports community volunteerism, and we are here today to share with you more about community events, about people, places, things around San Diego and beyond. Now, both Anna, Rebecca, and I have been living in San Diego area for several years, and we have been involved in helping the military, putting on special events for the wounded warriors, and sending tapes, books, and videos overseas to our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan.
We want to support and honor our military. We believe we have a very exciting program for you today because it is the month of November and we are honoring our veterans with some very extraordinary guests. Today's program is called the Veterans Day Special. Coming up next, after a short break, we will have our very first guest, Colonel George Brown. Welcome back. I'm your co-host, Anna Rebecca. We'll be speaking with Colonel Brown. He is the Executive Director of the YMCA at Camp Pendleton and San Diego, California. He collects donations for military families. The YMCA program helps its families by providing community services. Their mission is to enhance the lives of military personnel and their family members in body, mind, and spirit. Welcome. Thank you for being on our show.
Anna Rebecca, it's a pleasure being here, and thank you for the opportunity to tell you and your listeners what we do at the Armed Services YMCA at Camp Pendleton.
Yes, and we want to know a little bit more about the YMCA program. Could you tell us a little bit more?
Absolutely. We've been here since 1943, and we provide programs and services to the active duty military and their families that focuses on enhancing their quality of life. And we focus on the most junior enlisted ranks for those programs and services.
And how long have you been involved in raising funds for these programs?
I've been with the agency for almost 6 years now, and it's very enjoyable. Our national director allows us the opportunity to determine what needs our military community wants, and then to be able to fund it. We've done very well in the past years, but of course now, during these harder economic times, it's much more difficult.
I know. And I'd like to know a little bit more about how the YMCA program specifically addresses the needs of the military families.
Yes, we have, our programs essentially are divided into two groups. One is mainly for the families, and it provides a transportation program where we'll take them to the hospital or to the commissary for food, or to WIC, a program that they have nationally. We also do a Mommy and Me preschool. It's a little bit different. It's the same preschool for children, but our twist is that the moms attend. And what we have found that this has been the biggest stress reducer for the many deployments that our families have been facing since 2003. The other group of programs is we work with the School of Infantry, and we have a recreation center there on the weekends. We do what we call concrete beaches, which are cookouts for the students after they finish their hike. And it's an opportunity for members of the local community to come out and volunteer and to meet some of these great Americans.
Wow, that sounds really, really wonderful.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Tell us more about a family that's been impacted by your program and a story about that.
Oh, absolutely. In 2008, we served about a little over 48,000 active duty military and their families. But one particular story stands out in my mind is when a young Marine returned from Iraq. And he, unfortunately, his wife felt that she could not take the stresses and the hardships of a military lifestyle, so she left him while he was deployed. And of course, when she left, she put their 2 children in foster care. So he found this out, of course, when he comes back to Camp Pendleton. And he was able to get custody of his children. And of course, the base helped him with a home, quarters. But where we stepped in is we provided him the needs of getting a household established. We purchased the beds for the children and him, dresser drawers, kitchen tables, those basic needs. And then what we did is we provided him a cell phone so that he could contact, or that his daycare provider for his 2 children would be able to contact him if they needed to. And the best part of this story is that he's still serving on active duty today.
Wow, that's
so
wonderful.
That we're really proud about that.
Yes. Wow, what a moving story.
There are a lot others, but to me, that was that had the most impact of what we do for our families.
Yes, and I saw the pictures that you brought in, and we'll get a chance to see those. Could you tell us a little bit about some of these pictures you brought?
Yes, I would. A lot of them are from our children's programs.
Okay.
The Mommy and Me graduation that we do every year, especially the older kids as they graduate and go into kindergarten. And also for our after-school program we call Operation Hero, which provides tutoring and mentoring for those children who are having difficulty with some of the deployments, and it helps them not only socially but academically, and so you'll see some of those shots.
That's great. Now, I've also heard of other programs such as Operation Liberty Call.
Project Liberty Call.
Okay.
Yes, there was a program we started about 3 years ago. One of our staff came to me and said that a lot of community members want to help families throughout the year, not just during key holiday timeframes. So we started Project Liberty Call, and it was a program so that the community members can provide different things throughout the year for our families. Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. We have done that, and now the program has kind of turned into something that is has much more impact. We get referrals from the hospital and from the counselors through the base a lot. And these are situations where they don't have a lot of money for food, or maybe their child is in the intensive care unit at Balboa. And gas is expensive, as we all know. So what the program mainly does now, besides providing donations, Easter baskets and things like that during the holidays, is we provide about $45,000 a year in commissary, that's food, certificates, and also gas coupons so that they can visit their children down at Balboa or get necessary food. So it helps defer some of those costs so that they could use their funds for other reasons.
Right. It sounds like you are really taking care of the needs and the practical needs of the children and the families. And you also help and support the troops. When they return from deployment, how is it that the YMCA supports these men and women?
What we do is, well, we're there to serve them. We don't actually have homecoming events for them. The base provides that for them with their different unit coordinators. But what we do is we are there to help some of those unit coordinators with family days and things like that.
Now, how do you see the program expanding in the future?
We would like to see, there are several programs that we've started that we would like to see expand. One in particular we call Mothers in Transition. This is a program that it's a support group for ladies who have been identified as possibly having postpartum depression. Okay. And the hospital was testing them but had no means of doing anything about it. So we got involved and hired a clinical therapist, and they meet once a week for 10 weeks. But after that, they don't have anything, there's no other reinforcement. So we want to expand that program into a month, having a meeting once a month for those that graduate so that they can reinforce what they learn in the support group. And also, the child care element of that is going away. So we want to be able to find the necessary funding to allow for that child care and also that continuation program. And just one other thing I want to mention is we are developing a program. Operation Hero is our after-school program for elementary school children. We want to develop a program that helps parents of our kids, children, increase communication at home. It's a family literacy program.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
We did a pilot last year for that program, and we were just amazed
So there
at
are
the
new
response.
programs coming in.
Absolutely.
That is wonderful.
All
and
the
you know,
time.
it sounds as if you have a real wraparound program where you're meeting the needs at all different levels. And I just want to thank you so much again, Colonel George Brown, for being here with us today. It's a pleasure having you, and we want to support you. So thank you again.
Anna Rebecca, thank you very much.
Coming up next, we will hear from our next guest, Jack Iskin. We'll be right back when Jeannie interviews him.
Welcome back. Before we interview our next guest, we want to honor our veterans and our troops throughout the world by singing first the beautiful chorus from America the Beautiful.
Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains and majesties above the fruited plains. America
Oh, that was beautiful. Next, we have another special guest on our show today. In this first segment, we will be interviewing Jack Iskin, a Purple Heart recipient who served in the Battle of Guadalcanal. He not only received a Purple Heart, he has a very compelling story of how he is helping today's troops. Welcome, Jack. We're so happy to have you here today. Jack, will you please tell us about your war experience in the Battle of Guadalcanal?
Well, I could say I'd be delighted to, but it wasn't a delight. Nevertheless, I was 18 years old at the time. I had been in the Navy already since I was 17 years old. On my 17th birthday, I joined the Navy and was sent to Newport, Rhode Island for training. I was trained there and then was sent to Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida, where I became an aviation radioman gunner in a single-engine plane. These were the planes that were shot off the battleships for scout observation purposes because they didn't have sophisticated radar in those days. I was the tail gunner and the radioman, and of course there was a pilot, and they were float planes that would land alongside the battleship and be lifted aboard when we were through with our mission. Nevertheless, it was then, that was 1941, and then the war started, and I was there. I was in the Navy a year before the war actually started. And we were cruising off Guadalcanal. This was the night of November 12th, 1942. Now, previously or right after, the poor Sullivan brothers were all killed on one cruiser. There were major disasters, the Canberra, the Astoria, all cruisers were all sunk by the Japanese, and they were dominating. And we were cruising off Guadalcanal, and it was very late in the day, and around 11 p.m., and you could smell Guadalcanal, the lush atmosphere, but also you could hear the explosions that the Marines were going through that particular hell that they were sent to.
Yes, and I understand that you have a piece of the ship here, which he's going to share with us.
This happens to be a plank that was sent to me by the son of one of my old buddies aboard ship, who is gone now. And this was the actual planking, and you can see the bolt where it was planked and fastened to the deck of the ship. Since then, of course, they've eliminated all wood decks aboard ship, but in those days, they did not. And yes.
Jack, can you tell us, we know that you received a Purple Heart, and would you tell us about the extent of your injuries?
Well, the extent of my injuries are comparatively minor now that I've reached this particular age, but at the moment, it wasn't so much the injury, it was the devastation that was wrought on our ship just around midnight of November 12th, 1942, November 13th and the 14th. We ran into the Japanese fleet off of Savo Island, which is right adjacent to Guadalcanal. And the terrible moment was the silence before the guns went off. And then all hell broke loose. We fired at the Japanese. Our guns suddenly went off because the whole electrical system on our ship was blown out. I was 100 feet up in the superstructure. I was a radio direction finder in those days, at that time, during night battles. I was 100 feet above main deck and very lightly armored, unlike the rest of the ship, which had massive armoring on it, at least 16 inches of armor. And the Japanese concentrated on this tower, and the devastation they wrought was undescribable. I was the only one left alive in my battle station, and there were around 50 killed at that moment. And how I found my way down to the aid station was caused by another hero, John Locke, who dragged me out of my burning compartment and into medical help.
I understand that you've been on the cover of the National Geographic magazine, and you have brought that story with us today.
With me at Jacksonville, Florida, the training, was another fellow. I was 17 years old. He was 16. His name was Harry Ferrier. And we never been away from home before. And Harry, being 16, we went ashore together and we practically held hands because we'd never been in a town this big alone.
Right.
Without our parents.
You said you were crying for your mothers. Is that what they all
well,
did?
no, that was after the battle. The wounded were not as brave as we imagined wounded to be. There were fantastic, dynamic corpsmen, aid men who helped us. I was dragged, as I said, down to aid station, but Harry and I, we completed our course in gunnery and aviation gunnery and radiomanship at Jacksonville, and we were, in those days, since it was still peacetime, allowed to select the squadron we wanted to go to. And Harry came to me and said, Jack, the whole gang, 5 of us, buddies, are going to Torpedo Squadron 8. It must be a thrilling moment in his life, but I like the larger 2-engine bombers, the PBYs and so on. So I said, no, I'm going to go into those type of planes.
Right.
And Harry, of course, was on the Yorktown, sent to Midway, and the entire squadron was destroyed there by the Japanese.
Okay, and is that story's in the National
That's the
story's
story.
in the National Graphic magazine with your picture when you were 17 and
That's
something?
right. But the point is, I thought I got the word that Harry and all my buddies were dead, which was true at Midway, the Battle of Midway, when the Yorktown went down. I'm sitting in a doctor's office and I pick up a previous issue to this of National Geographic, and I see a picture by Robert Ballard is going back to the Yorktown to dive for whatever he can find of the Battle of Midway. And it said, we took back Harry Ferrier. I said, you couldn't. I let out a scream. I said, but he's dead. How could they? I called National Geographic and I said, Harry Ferrier, where is he? What's he doing? And they said, oh, we can't give that sort of information. After all, it's confidential. I called the editor, the chief editor, and I explained to her that Harry Ferrier is dead. How did they get him? She said, oh, I can't stand the story. Give me your phone number.
And so after, was it 50 years later?
56 years later, Harry was given my phone number and called me, and he says, I thought you were killed at Guadalcanal.
Oh, okay.
They arranged for this meeting.
All right. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, now, that brings us to today's war and what he's doing to help the troops now. Jack has actually walked door to door and has collected more than $75,000 and gave it to the Navy
Marine
Corps
Relief Society.
at Camp Pendleton.
That's
but
right.
they're throughout the world, right?
Well, yes,
But-
they're
but
in
that-
Miramar and other
Right,
stations.
but I mean, to think, and I understand, Jack, that old people gave their pension checks and
Oh.
Social Security checks.
They were marvelous.
And little children, what tell us the little boy that gave you money?
Oh, my God. He shows up at my door and he says, I understand you're raising money for the troops and at Pendleton. I said, yes. He says, here's $7 as my allowance for the week.
Oh,
I started
how
to
can-
cry.
oh.
But one more thing. I live in a community of elders now, La Costa Glen. And I spoke to this gentleman about the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. And he said to me the next day, hey, I looked up the Navy Marine Corps Relief. They're legitimate. He says they've been in existence for 105 years. And
Right.
their overhead is minimal, but they give so much back to the troops, helps families. Navy Marine Corps Relief
Right.
helps the families, just as the YMCA does such a wonderful job.
right.
And he says, therefore, I'd like to give you a check. Meet me tomorrow. I met him the next day, and he says, get me a receipt for this. But he hands me the check, and I open the envelope. It was for $10,000.
$10,000. Oh,
I felt as though I had been shot
oh,
again.
Jack, that's wonderful. I know you have many beautiful stories, and I know that our audience is happy to know that that there are many organizations like fundraising like the YMCA program and your program and the Wounded Warriors. And we are so happy to have had you and shared all these experiences with us today, Jack. And so thank you for being with us.
It was my honor to be allowed to express myself, and I hope this reaches the younger generations
Okay.
and urges them to help.
What great contributions our community is making in support of our troops. And what great interviews. We hope you have enjoyed our special Veterans Day special.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our show. We have another wonderful guest who is a Purple Heart recipient. And before that, there's a special song that was written for the Wounded Warriors. Remember to keep a smile on your face,
And a song in your heart.
and God bless everyone. Thank you.
By the shores of Oceanside, with you there by my side, our love we could not hide. By the shores of Oceanside, sailboats passing by, moonlight in the sky. When I saw the surf and tide, the ocean waved goodbye.